In this video, I'm going to break down the Sony ZV-1 Mark II to help you decide if it's the right one for you. Sony has done a fantastic job of advertising this camera as a vlog camera for TikTok losers. Wow. But looking past that, this is a tool that might be the right one for you. Maybe. It is a 1-inch type sensor. The aperture goes as wide as f1.8 and the focal length goes as wide as 18 millimeters, which is ultra wide. There are some significant upgrades, some downgrades, some omissions, and in this video, I'm gonna go over 11 things about this camera you need to know. So with that said, let's list out the key features. The Sony ZV-1 Mark II has an 18 to 50 millimeter equivalent f1.8 through f4, fully enabled touchscreen, 4K 2430, 1080, 2430, 60, 120, a stacked sensor, built-in ND filter, cinematic vlog, product showcase, background defocus, and active stabilization. So let's look at the first factor. The 18 to 50 millimeter lens goes from ultra wide to normal. However, it is a bit of a downgrade in that it's the only RX ZV zoom that does not have optical stabilization. More on that later. Number 2, low light noise. The 18 to 50 has a true focal length of 6.9 to 17.6. The 18 to 50 is a full frame equivalent. However, the aperture being 1.8 to f4, that is exposure equivalent. And it is not the same amount of light that is projected onto the sensor. Full frame f1.8 works in extremely low light and with low noise. I mean, this 1-inch sensor, there's only so much it could do. The low light levels is going to approach that of a cell phone. There will be significantly more noise. It's like comparing a wafer-thin 80s runway model to a 2023 gender fluid, body positive, 425-pound model. Bruh. Number 3, field of view, 18 millimeter equivalent. That is a highlight spec. However, that spec is for stills, and this being a vlogging camera, you should know that a few things. 6.9 millimeter is the number, and it's an important one because Sony fudged numbers in the past with the ZV-1. It was 9.4 millimeters, while the RX 100 Mark II had 9 millimeters, and they were both 24. So we gotta look into this. 6.9 millimeters is no doubt wider than both. However, the range is only in stills and 1080p. There's a crop in 4K, that's 10%. There's no standard stabilization. There is a crop with active stabilization, that's another 10%. You're looking at 18 to 23 millimeters field of view respectively in 4K with all those modes enabled. Number 4 is blurring ability. Your blurring ability compared to the ZV-1 Mark I, 18 millimeters versus 24 millimeters at f1.8. Well, 24 millimeters is a longer focal length. It will blur more. And that's on the wide end. And ultra wide lenses tend to be difficult to produce background blur regardless of sensor size. It's just harder. At the long end, you've got 50 millimeter f4 versus 70 millimeter f2.8. And considering that 70 millimeter f2.8 is a true 25.7 f2.8 compared to 17.6 f4, the blurring ability is not a whole lot to start with. Number 5 is the full touchscreen. This is the elephant in the room. These cameras are hard to operate. They are tiny and extremely limited with physical buttons. You have one circly dial thing, pretty much leave it in aperture priority, go on about your business, start filming, and don't overthink it. Granted, the controls will help a lot, and oftentimes you need to lock settings, you will need to lock focus. The ZV-1 was very difficult. The RX 100, those are difficult. Whatever you can offset to this touchscreen will free up that back dial so that you can manual focus, because sometimes you need to lock focus and you need to lock it somewhere where you know. The touchscreen is absolutely understated on this camera. It is super important. You will need to use it, and you will need to use it all the time. Number 6, recording modes, 4K, 1080. They're all in 8-bit color. There's no upgrade in that regard, and it can be enough for you. However, 10-bit color, it's not happening, and I'm just a messenger. Number 7, what usually comes with 10-bit color is high efficiency codec, which is missing. However, it is mutually exclusive from 10-bit color. Considering this is a vlog camera appealing to the young, larger files can be annoying, especially when transferring to phones. GoPro has HEVC. iPhones does HEVC. So it's kind of sad that this is missing. However, it is what it is. Number 8, this one is going to hurt. High frame rate is gone. In HFR mode, you could record 240, 480, even 960 frames per second. And who wouldn't want to have all those frame rates? You know, you could think of it as a gimmick, but, you know, is Rogaine a gimmick? Number 9, battery door freedom. The 1/4" 20 move to the other side of the camera. However, you still have the same battery, which is battery life jail. Expect 1 hour of 4K recording on a good day. That doesn't account for turning on and off the camera. That doesn't account for changing settings in the menu. That doesn't account for framing shots, retakes, and idle times. Number 10, related to the battery, is the screen dimming. When using 4K, there's a serious amount of dimming. When using 1080 120, there's a serious amount of dimming. And if you're outside in the sun, it is extremely difficult to see the rear screen, especially at arm's length. You have to trust in Sony's amazing AF and the fact that you have significant depth of field working to your advantage. Number 11, USB-C power delivery, and it probably doesn't make a huge difference, but the fact that micro USB is finally in the past, the way you get power to this camera can be a big deal. This combined with the freed up slot on the 1/4" 20 mount freedom means you have legit ways of powering the camera for many hours at a time. You can power via dummy battery or USB power bank, making the device virtually endless. You can see here on my camera, I have this USB plug all the time because it is so useful. So to recap, there's no optical stabilization. f1.4 is a best effort attempt at tackling noise. It's still only a 1-inch sensor. 18 millimeters isn't really 18 with all the cropping involved. It can get as long as 23 at the widest. Blurring ability and ultra wide do not go hand in hand. The true focal length is 6.9 millimeters, f1.8 to 17.6 millimeter f4. Full touchscreen is an absolute game changer with these small cameras with high functionality. I cannot express this enough. This is a massive upgrade in practice. The camera has literally one dial in the rear, and the same dial is used to manual focus or change aperture or change ISO. You can see how freeing up aperture, ISO, or shutter can use it for different operations. All video is 8-bit only, so you can forget about S-Log 3, stick with S-Log 2. HEVC codecs are not included. You still have to deal with the larger files of H.264, which are already compressed. High frame rates, one of the biggest features most smartphones can't touch, is gone. Battery life issues have not been addressed. Dimming in 4K 1080 120 is still a thing. And USB-C is finally here. Now you might be thinking that with all these flaws, just use a phone, and you're probably right for most folks. However, the fact that you're watching this, you're not like most folks. You want better than cell phone, and this is probably a better pick for a few reasons. A dedicated device frees up your phone to be used for more important things, like dog updates on Facebook. The camera has a selfie screen where you can use the most powerful lens and sensor combination. Smartphones generally have an extremely poor selfie screen compared to their rear camera, and even then the rear cameras used for ultra wide and telephoto generally have much smaller sensors. Alternatively, the ZV-E10 with kit lens costs similar to the ZV-1 Mark II. Has a massive sensor comparatively. Image quality is a notch above. At $900, that's a lot of money. You can probably get an RX 100 Mark VII, which has 160 frames per second, which goes to 200 millimeter, which has optical stabilization, active stabilization, intelligent active stabilization, which many smartphones can't touch. $900 is a lot of money for a camera that is not upgraded in every area. Maybe if they upgraded the frame rates or didn't take away some of the cool features like 900 frames per second, optical stabilization, and gave it HEVC codecs, it would have been a much more appealing product. Anyhow, that's all I got for today. Thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, share. See you in the next one. Take care.